What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Walkout Network. It's your man, Ant Walker, here with a special edition of Unleashed. Today is our 50th episode, so we decided we're going to mix things up a little bit, and I have no idea what this is going to come out like, but, fuck it. This is what we do. So let's go ahead and introduce a star-studded panel. This panel may be rotating. So we've had some technical issues. We've got one prospective panelist who is currently chatting with a porn star. So we'll see what happens schedule-wise, whether or not everybody gets blended in or not. But here we go. Let's go ahead and first introduce one of our guests. We haven't seen him on this channel for a while, but you've seen him alongside me on the Body Locks recorded segments. He is also known as the initial, the DNA PIMP, Patrick Auger. Pat, how you doing, my man?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me back on for the 50th. I tried to get some more initials for you before this happened, but I didn't quite get it done. So those initials will be coming in a week or so. But
good. Just maximize the initials you got. I don't think you need any more right now. All right. So, of course, you know who this next person I'm going to introduce is. You've seen him quite a few times on our channel here. He is the host and founder of Mixed Combat Radio, my former colleague at Sherdog.com. Mr. Matt, the hipster hunter, also known as Matt the Lesser. Matt, how you doing today?
First off, why you've been ducking me for like 3 weeks for shows. So thank you for inviting me. First off, no, thank you to Jay for inviting me, not Ant. Thank you to Jay for inviting all of us. Jay's the homie, and Ben, not Ant. Ant's the worst. But awesome, got to be on for this 50th anniversary, 50th edition of the show. I feel like we've been on, or you guys been on for a while, and it's great to see the growth of the show and how it's developed, and I think it's been awesome to see. And plus, I mean, even though like we didn't have a star-studded like fight card this weekend, we do have a star-studded show today, so that's fun to see. So I'm excited.
Yeah, if only like last week was our 50th week,
right?
Which now makes me regret missing that 1 week when I got sick and they didn't get the Slack message that I was sick, so we just skipped it. But anyway. Here we go. Now let's go ahead and introduce a man who was here last week, and he's been here a couple other times. You know him from MMA On Point. He is also the man behind the Twitch streams and the consumption of White Claw and Bud Light Seltzer that has consumed the average fan here. He is Jason Hartley. Jason, how you doing?
Hi. We're talking about like man stuff. My bad. What's up, dude? How's it going, bro? Nah, man. Yeah, I just got off the Twitch stream. That is 100% true. I don't drink alcohol. I resent that comment. I'm totally sober right now, and waiting for Kendra Lust to pop in here. Can't wait.
I'm going to leave that exactly as it is.
Well, thank you from MMA Media's Takanori Gomi. Now let's go ahead and introduce Matt the Greater. You've seen him on this channel plenty of times. He is a Slip and Dip podcast, also a FanSided MMA. My good friend Matt Wells. Matt, how you doing today, buddy?
Man, I'm making it, man. This is gonna be a trip right here, boy. I'm excited for wherever this goes. I know it's already off the rails. I can't wait to see what we crash into. Oh my god.
This is a disaster so far. I love it. All right. And now, of course, you know him as the jack of all trades who's mastered them all. He is the senior editor of Sherdog.com. He is Ben Duffy. Ben, what's going on?
I'm doing real well. I know we have a lot of people and a lot to talk about, so I'll just save the rest of it till later.
Can't tell many jokes off that. Thanks, Ben. Now, of course, we're going to introduce the man who anchors the panel every week, the man with the facts, the figures, the stats, and the numbers. He is the associate editor of Sherdog.com, Jay Petrie. Jay, how you doing, brother?
I am very excited about what's about to happen here. Let's get right to it, though, because we're starting with weird, and let's go with weird all the way through. Weird is plus 900. That's the stat of the week. It's plus 900. Some of you guys might know because Shannon Dobson pounded out Maria Agapova as a plus 900 underdog. Spoiler alert, that's never happened in UFC history. We've never had a favorite that large using the consistent books we use. Beats GSP Sarah, beats home Ronda. It's, in terms of the betting lines, the biggest upset in UFC history, and only like 45 people got to see it.
Wow. All right. Well, let's go ahead and give some discussion to the UFC event Saturday night. The main event took place between Frankie Edgar in his bantamweight debut. He edged a split decision over Pedro Munhoz. So, gentlemen, the first question of the day is, did the right man win the headliner on Saturday night. Looks like Hunter is shaking his head, so he's feeling very opinionated. But I have a feeling Matt the Greater will have something to say in reply. Lesser, what's your take? Matt the Lesser, as in Matt the Hipster Hunter?
I'm waiting.
Oh,
All right, here's the deal, because I'm terrified of Matt, so I'm going to do this. Frankie Edgar, I thought, boxed a beautiful fight. I thought his outside movement was clearly levels above Pedro Munhoz's ability to get on the inside and actually land effective combinations consistently. I thought Frankie Edgar's counter striking was superb. I thought his ability to not only do that, but then get out of danger almost instantaneously by ducking under shots, rolling out. He did that like over and over and over again. And yes, he got hit with shots time and time again, so to speak, because Pedro Munhoz is a good guy. He's a good striker. He's a guy that does land powerful shots. But overall, Frankie Edgar's consistent combination work, his consistent offense leads him to winning the rounds. So I think I scored it, I think, the first 2 rounds for Frankie Edgar, and then like round 4. I don't have my scorecard from me, but I think round 4 for Frankie. I can't remember off the top of my head. Maybe round 5. But Frankie, again, I gave him 3 rounds, and I thought he boxed beautifully. That was probably a vintage Frankie Edgar performance, honestly.
All right, so Mr. Wells, what do you have to say in reply? Because I can see it on your face.
It's one of those Frankie Edgar fights, man. He's got that style that appeals to judges, you know, even though he may or may not be actually winning the fight. And it was one to really kind of hard to like watch. Like I remember watching it initially. I was like, first round was Munhoz. Then I went back and watched it a little bit earlier today. I was like, first round was probably Frankie. You know, I mean, there's a lot of those little like quick combinations that he was peppering him with that didn't seem to do a lot of damage, but those are scoring things. And that's what we see from Frankie Edgar all the time. And judges like that stuff, regardless of how hard he may have eaten some return shots on the way back. They see the quick 1-2, maybe the 1-2-3, and then dipping out. And the judges are like, "Ooh, nice work there, sir." So, you know, and that's what scores at the end of the round. I'm not mad at who won. I think Munhoz won the fight, but I'm not mad if you scored it for Frankie. It's just one of those fights where I think the result of the story, as you tweeted out earlier there, Ant, that we're glad the result didn't result in, you know, someone getting stepped over for a title shot. So as long as that didn't happen, I was cool with it. I was cool with whoever won, because that was the main takeaway. It was like, what's going to happen after this?
Yeah, that actually was the first thing I thought when this was announced as a main event was, okay, this is the opportunity to screw Aljo out of the bantamweight title shot. If Frankie Edgar goes in there and has a fantastic performance and ekes out he eked out a win this time, but if it was more definitive, and I got a reply from Casey at MMA Fighting pretty much saying the same thing, like if Frankie clearly won that fight, he's the next bantamweight contender. Yeah. Like that, I think that was something we all can agree would have happened. I think this is more about what you value in a fight. Like Matt said, if you're landing quick combinations, you're going in 1, 2, 3, and you're out of there. But every 5th time you do that, you take a hard counter. I'm probably going to lead toward the guy who's consistently landing that 1, 2, 3 and getting out of there. Unless, of course, those counter shots are completely flooring you. Like when you look at Bisping versus Henderson 2, something like that. I can see a little discrepancy, but in this case, I don't know. Does anybody want to cry robbery on the panel?
No, it's not the kind of situation where robbery is merited, because you can easily make the argument that both guys won. But I will say that there are a few things that stuck out to me more than I thought. That when I heard it went to a split decision, I thought, oh no, what's going to happen here? And then sure enough, Frankie got the nod, and I went, wait, I disagree there. If you count the leg kicks, which Cecil Peoples didn't, obviously, Munhoz outlanded them by a pretty significant number. Like he won. I mean, numbers on everything and stats and whatever. But in addition to Munhoz outlanding him, we can safely say that the power discrepancy was in Munhoz's favor. So when Edgar would get in there, pop, get out of the way, that's well and good. But Munhoz was landing too. So it wasn't a robbery. but it was that, ooh, I don't know about that decision there. And it's strange because Frankie actually, despite just conventional wisdom, and we think that Frankie Edgar takes these decisions. Well, actually, he doesn't usually. He's gone 25 minutes 10 times, and he's only won 4 of them. So that's, Edgar got it done, and Edgar, as a 38-year-old man, he may be defying Father Time and whatnot, but I don't know. I'm afraid that what's going to happen here. I'm afraid that Edgar's going to be matched up against Dominic Cruz or something along those lines, and then get a title shot. But maybe that's just me. Got on mute, buddy.
Matching up Edgar and Dominic Cruz right now, that sounds pretty fantastic to me. I'm all in favor of that. So let's go ahead and introduce Kristen King of the panel, my partner on the King and Slim column for My MMA News. Also, you've seen her on this channel, and she's a new hire for MMA Prospects. So congrats on that, Kristen. So to blend you into the conversation here, did the judges make the right call in the main event Saturday between Frankie Edgar and Pedro Munhoz?
Yeah, I think so. I think what happens is a fight like that where it was so like evenly matched, it gets kind of hard to differentiate like the winner in that fight. So either way it could have went. I mean, I personally thought that after like a first viewing, I thought Pedro Munhoz had won. But then after a second viewing, I was like, yeah, I could see how you could make a case for Frankie Edgar winning. I mean, I thought his combinations were a little bit more crisp than Pedro Munhoz's. Obviously, he was coming forward a lot more. He had the leg kicks going for him. But I just think overall, Frankie looks slightly better, but I'm not willing to say that like the judges robbed anybody of a win here. I mean, it could have been Frankie, it could have been Pedro. I'm not mad either way at how it went.
All right, very well balanced, and not something that we prefer on this show. We like to have crazy shit be said. So Pat, say something crazy.
I don't know why you guys think that because Frankie won, he'd get a title shot. Because if we learned anything, you have to lose a split decision to get a title shot.
So Munhoz getting the title shot.
Wake up.
Good point there.
Yeah, wake up.
All right, so let's go ahead and move it along here. But we'll stay on the same subject here, talking about Frankie Edgar and now pursuing title contention at bantamweight. I'm going to kick this to you first, Jason. Swing or miss, he's going to fight for the bantamweight title before his career is over.
I think he's got a major problem in the form of Aldo that also happened to just barely beat him down to bantamweight just by a couple months, even though he was supposed to fight Corey Sandhagen back in, January? I think he's got a major problem there because he's already lost to that guy twice. And that guy just lost for the title. I think it's really, really hard to make a case for Frankie Edgar winning that title. I'm a fan of Frankie Edgar. My heart was with him on this weekend. I did think he lost to go along with that conversation. And I just don't see him getting past somebody like Aldo. They might try to bypass somebody like that, but I don't see how you can justify that. And I certainly wouldn't be behind it. I think he needs to face Aldo before he can get there. And unfortunately, Aldo holds those keys to the kingdom. I don't think he can do it. I love him, but I don't think he can.
So does anybody think the UFC is going to put together Edgar versus Aldo 3?
No. Edgar for a title fight? Yes, absolutely. It's Frankie Edgar. He's getting a title shot. Come on.
I'd be very surprised if he didn't get a title shot.
Aldo lost a fight and got a title shot.
Frankie lost 2 fights and got a title shot.
Frankie Edgar won a fight and like a respectable fight. Like he looked good in my opinion. Like that was again a vintage Frankie Edgar performance in a lot of ways. And I think bantamweight is starving for some star power right now with Henry Cejudo not being in the picture, TJ Dillashaw not being in the picture, Dominic Cruz I think nearing the end and plus injuries, Aldo nearing the end plus he just got obliterated in his last fight. He might not be fighting again. Yeah, Frankie Edgar is getting a title shot at some point. Absolutely. Is he going to win that? No. Peter Yan's going to destroy him, but he's getting a title shot.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned TJ Dillashaw not being in the division. I mean, that suspension is over in January. I mean, we're fast approaching when TJ Dillashaw is back in the mix, and we have another star player that adds to surprisingly deep 135 division as far as name value is concerned. So is anybody in agreement with Jason here that Frankie will not see another title shot. Ben, please speak your piece.
I agree. I think the UFC would love to get him into another title shot. I mean, it's an amazing story. He's already probably the first fighter in major mixed martial arts history to be a top 5 fighter in 3 divisions. Like storyline wise, the UFC would love it. He's always been a good guy for the company. He's not a massive blockbuster draw, but there aren't many of those in the sport right now. It just would be tough to justify even for the UFC at this point. If it were a different time and place for this division, sure, but there's such a logjam at the top right now. There are people deserving of and waiting for title shots for so long that it's just a joke. I mean, you know, all of us already knew the setup when the Aljo punchline came out about 10 minutes ago on this show. We don't even have to reiterate it. Munhoz is a guy that if he had won, I mean, he's been bubbling along right underneath that logjam for so long now, he probably would have had a title shot early next year. There's just no way they can jump Edgar ahead of all these people that have been waiting longer and are more deserving on paper.
But you just said Munhoz would have maybe got a title shot first quarter next year. If Frankie Edgar beat Munhoz, would he theoretically get a title shot first quarter?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't take all of his marbles. Munhoz has a huge legacy and a resume he's built up at bantamweight. Like Frankie doesn't just steal those marbles.
But it's
like
the
there are a
UFC.
couple of kids at the park.
It's the UFC. It's Frankie Edgar. He has a bigger legacy, period, than Pedro Munhoz.
You know?
Period.
Well, and there are other people that would even get the undeserved title shot quicker. If Cejudo comes back, he's straight into a title shot.
Agree.
If Dillashaw,
No.
for all we know, he never lost that in the cage.
Yeah, but they're not giving him a title shot off the PED suspension. It's gonna be Frankie first.
I don't know about that. I wouldn't trust the UFC to do the right thing in that instance.
Over Frankie, if you have Frankie and TJ coming off suspension, you're going to give the title shot to Frankie Edgar.
I think they should make Frankie TJ then. Just get that out of the way.
Well, I think one thing that we should also factor in too, Cody Garbrandt is going to be fighting for the flyweight title soon. If he gets out of that with the flyweight belt, you've got the fast food version of a super fight coming your way, and Cody Garbrandt is going to leapfrog everybody.
I think Jason Hartley really wants to talk about that super fight right there.
Oh yeah, Jason is boiling in you.
I do just want to throw this back. Like, I think TJ Dillashaw, when he comes back, it's the title that he never lost. They're going to throw him right back into the title picture. I think he'll be, when you talk about first quarter next year, that's who's going to be back by February next year. First quarter, TJ Dillashaw is going to get a title shot. I almost guarantee it, unless he fails another EPO test. Let's not rule that out. But I don't think anybody. So here's the thing. Why would they book Frankie Edgar above TJ Dillashaw? Because it would sell more? No, it wouldn't. TJ Dillashaw would sell a lot more than Frankie Edgar. If it's about money, Frankie Edgar does not get you money. When has Frankie Edgar ever sold a lot of pay-per-views? Ever. Period. Never. I cannot think of a single Frankie Edgar pay-per-view just on the name value of Frankie Edgar alone in one other person that sold well. It doesn't exist. They gave it to Max Holloway because that was another name to give him some legitimacy for sure. But I think they were also in a holding pattern. I think it was something to give them while they were waiting on Volkanovski to materialize. Whatever that deal, whatever was going on behind the scenes, I think they were waiting for it. Name one pay-per-view that has sold over 300,000 pay-per-view buys with Frankie Edgar. He is not.
Well, UFC 200 was basically all him.
Yeah. What about Dillashaw? How many was Dillashaw?
My counter argument to that would be Dillashaw has never been a draw as well. And
that Joe Soto fight sold
one pay-per-view. Dillashaw was the headliner and sold over 300,000 pay-per-view buys.
I would say them using that for the ESPN Plus original start off, it did very, very well for them, and they knew it would. One, because it was a cross-promotional fight, but they also have the Cody Garbrandt rivalry, which was part of the reason why 227 did as well as it did. Mighty Mouse has never been the biggest draw.
So I think we've come to the conclusion that the fight to make is Edgar versus Dillashaw when he comes back, right? Because then you have two former champions, and if we as media should not accept TJ Dillashaw coming back right into a title shot. especially
No,
off of
Frank
especially.
Frank Edgar legit earned one against Pedro Munhoz. I feel like we're
I
just
agree with
throwing
that.
off, like,
I
off
agree with
the
that.
rip,
I'm
like,
talking
like
about,
it's
I'm talking
nothing.
about like for a solid co-main event of a numbered pay-per-view card. Throw that fight on there as a co-main, and then the winner is undeniably in line for the title shot at that point.
Yeah, I like that idea. I'd say Cruz and Aldo, and then TJ welcomes Frankie back, or Frankie welcomes TJ back.
See, I think it's going to be based on the UFC's prior booking decisions, because what they're going to do is put Frankie in the wings, and unless he needs to step up short notice again, he's going to get a title shot. I would bet so much money on that. There's no doubt in my mind he will get a title shot. All the money I have, I would put that down, especially when he lost and then ended up fighting Holloway off of a loss. Like that is going to happen. I guarantee it. But what I think they're going to do is TJ is going to come back. They're going to say, oh, never really lost the belt. I'm in agreement there that he'll probably eventually get a title shot. But what I think is probably more likely is if Cruz is still willing to fight, they're going to do Cruz versus Dillashaw again. I think that would make more sense given the rivalry, and that gives Frankie his title shot. That allows for the trilogy. And I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I love Ben Duffy to death. You're still a meritocratic guy, and I love that because I am too in my heart, but I've studied too much of the business side to know that they don't care and they never will. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be Aljo, then Frankie, and then they'll do Dillashaw versus Cruz, and then the winner of that will get a title fight.
But I want to point out again, in Ben's own argument, in terms of meritocracy, Frankie Edgar's earned a title shot because he just said that Pedro Munhoz would have got a title shot.
No, he said he was on the lower end of the logjam, and I agree with that. I don't think
the logjam is Aljo. The logjam is just Aljo. Who else is the logjam?
Marias.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. Frankie Edgar gets a title shot before his teammate.
And Garbrandt with the 125-pound belt.
And
Figueiredo's
Yeah, that's true.
Cejudo, who we know is going to come back.
Man, why don't they? Then if they really want to force Cejudo and Dillashaw back into the mix, and they're both going to come in the relatively same time, why don't we have Cejudo versus Dillashaw?
Cejudo coming back for 145. He's coming back for Volk. Let's not forget that.
Yeah,
You think so?
I agree with that.
I think it's too small. I think
Steve.
it's way too small for 145.
But Volk is small. Volk's like 5'3".
5'3" and was like 260 at one point in his life. He's not
he
small.
was a rugby guy though.
And
I kept hearing that.
Yeah,
Was he the ball? Like,
He was the entire scrum.
okay.
All right, so we're definitely going to go off the rails if we continue down this path. So let's go ahead, steer it back on ship very quickly here. There was, once again, I mean, we talk about this every week, but COVID-19 made its presence known on this fight card, scrapping a couple of bouts last minute. Also said a member of the production team for ESPN caught it as well. Should this have even happened? Should this event have taken place with all the COVID-19 positive tests that we got leading up to it?
Well, it's kind of a contrast because the Japanese organization Pancrase was supposed to be on the other night, and one fighter tested positive. So they said, "We're done. We're out. We don't want to take the risk. We don't want to have the chance that somebody who was sick prior to this bumps into somebody and something else happens. We don't want to deal with it. We'll be back later. Thanks for the cheese." Whereas the UFC had multiple fighters that, OSP had it prior to the fight week. He had COVID. He tested negative. Then he tested positive again. And then he decided, I can still attend weigh-ins. I can still shake Dana White's hand. I can do the whole rigmarole. Oh, I'm out of my fight. And in the meantime, the production team, like Dana very openly admitted, yeah, we had, one of our people got sick, and I think it was 6 others were quarantined, which is a pretty big deal for people in the Apex. There's only so many people that can be in there. So I don't know. I don't want to be the Greg Jackson of Unleashed right now, but seriously, how many positive tests would it take? I guess that's an open question. And I'll ask Duffy because he needs to say more. I'm curious what he's thinking. How many tests, how many positives would it take for the UFC to get to the center of the cancellation Tootsie Pop?
You already are the Greg Jackson of Unleashed.
guess
Like,
so.
you're the reason we didn't run the show the week that Ant was out, and our numbering is all off, and we didn't have the 50th episode, before last week's card. You are a fucking podcast killer.
Podcast killer.
Yes.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad you guys let me on this week.
On a nearly weekly basis, the UFC is just skating right by fight cancellations that would have scotched a card in the pre-COVID era. There is nothing. If they have to run out a 6-fight card with people they found fighting in the 7-Eleven parking lot, they're going to do it. Like, dude, the spice must flow. They have to put on these cards, and this is just what we get now. And it's a shame, but considering a couple months ago we were getting nothing and we were just all, pulling our hair out, it is better than nothing. And if this is what it takes for them to put on events safely enough that we can watch them in good conscience and not just feel like we're, watching people marching to their death, then that's what we got. But yeah, I can't picture the situation that would have the UFC entirely cancel a card this year.
Yeah. It has to be so many tests that there's just nobody that can fill the minimum amount of bouts needed for ESPN to write the check. That's the only way that something gets canceled this year.
So if it had been Frankie instead of OSP, is that the level, or would we have received OSP versus Alonzo Menafield as a 2020 headliner?
Would it have done any worse?
Yeah, we've seen worse main events. So we've seen more outrageous things happen. So especially in this case, they want that guaranteed money. They will put anybody on that card. So don't be surprised if you see like the PR staff out there fighting. If that's what's left, or are they going to start recruiting media? Like, it's going to be Oscar's going to fight Jim Grease or something. I don't know. Like, that's what's going to happen if this continues. So, all right, so let's go ahead and move things along here. So I'm going to present you guys and our lady, Kristen, with two options here. You choose one or you perish. So we have the cross-promotional idea of Bellator champs fighting UFC champs again being brought up post-fight. Dana, of course, shot this down, but a lot of people are really thinking about this. And with Ryan Bader having his title snatched away by Nemkov over the weekend, who do we think has a chance against the UFC champions that currently holds a belt in Bellator?
Well,
Nemkov. Easily Nemkov. Oh, sorry. You go first, Doug.
It's tough for me to say because Jones is sitting atop one of the divisions we're talking about. And while he's having a harder time in his last couple fights, I'm just not going to favor anybody against him until I see it.
But he's officially vacated now, so we can't.
Well, even... yeah, now that he's vacated, Nemkov versus the people that are going to be duking it out, I'd put him right in there. If we're talking about the front runners for this being people like Reyes, Santos, yeah, put Nemkov right in there with him. He has, convincing victories over people like Phil Davis, Ryan Bader, Pedro Carvalho that are just as good as the top UFC 205ers outside of Jones have beaten in the last 2 years.
I agree. I mean, honestly, due to the question on paper, because your version of the question was different. On paper was Pitbull or Nemkov, who was a top 5 in their division. They probably both are to a degree, maybe more Nemkov because light heavyweight division is just a weaker division. But honestly speaking, if we're talking about Bellator champs versus UFC champions, most Bellator champs, if not all of them, are probably going to lose that fight head on. If we have to gun to our head pick, we're probably going to pick the UFC champs. However, that doesn't mean that Bellator doesn't have top 10 or top 15 talent. They do. They have a lot of top 10, top 15 talent. We really don't calibrate as much as we should in terms of rankings and such.
So Kristen, I'm going to kick this one to you. Am I crazy for thinking that the most competitive out of the UFC Bellator matchups would be Kamaru Usman and Douglas Lima?
No, you're not crazy. I think that would be the most competitive, honestly. I'd love to see that fight, but of course, we don't like cross-promotional things because apparently people hate fun. I don't know why we're bashing cross-promotional fights. I think it'd be great if we saw UFC champions up against Bellator champions because you kind of want to know that thing. Like, I think when you talk about top 5 in a division, you automatically assume that you're just talking straight up UFC. You're not thinking about like any other promotions outside of it. Like if you look at Patricio Pitbull, he's like number 1 featherweight outside of the UFC, outside of one championship, whatever the hell they have going on. But no one talks about it because he's in the second league, I guess you want to say. So I think that'd be the most competitive fight. And I'd love to see something like that. Also, just for the sake of saying it, the fight between Amanda Nunes and Chris Cyborg, the rematch, I think that's also highly competitive a second time around. I feel like Chris Cyborg probably fought way too emotional in the first meeting. And I think now that she's kind of calmed down and realized what she should have done different against Amanda Nunes, the fight between them, a rematch between them would definitely be a little bit different. So I think those 2 fights would be the most competitive.
All right. Any other Bellator champs that we want to discuss potentially upstaging a UFC counterpart?
I don't know if he would upstage him or beat him. And he's not the champion right now, but because of a strange turn of events and the champion retiring to bring irregularities, Gegard Mousasi versus Israel Adesanya, that would be a serious fight. Now it depends on the Mousasi we get. If we get the kind of smirking at the camera, whatever, and then he doesn't really engage, it could look like the Romero fight. They're just kind of both dancing on the edge. But incredibly talented kickboxer versus incredibly talented kickboxer, they'd be on the ground the whole time, and we'd see what happened there. So I think that could be a really fun, surprisingly competitive fight that most people wouldn't think of because, what are you going to do? Jones versus Demkov? I don't know. I mean, Volkanovski versus Pitbull, that could be fun. But Usman versus Lima, I'm going to be, when it comes to agreeing with you being wrong, I am firmly in the wrong here in that Usman would blanket Douglas Lima. He would blanket him. It would be a 50-45, and we'd be like, oh, man, what a shame that ended up that way. But I don't know. I'm okay being wrong.
Yeah, I don't like everybody. I don't like everybody shaking their heads in agreement with you when you are with me.
I mean, David will never agree to a cross promotional fight, especially featuring champs or top contenders. Right. Even if the UFC stood to gain, the other promotion would stand to gain more.
Yes.
But if he ever wanted to, book Usman versus Lima, because one, nobody will ever ask for a cross promotional champ fight again, even Bellator, because they will be like, oh man, our best fighter was made to look like complete dog shit, and nobody watched because it was a terrible fight.
Well, I'm kicking all of you motherfuckers off my show. But with that in mind, I'm going to turn the floor over to Jay, actually, because we have the greatest title segment in all of media history. I'm not surprised Mr. Falcons and Jay asked to take control for this segment. The floor is yours, my man.
So normally in the I'm not surprised Mr. Falcons segment, we each have something that happened this past weekend, the fights, the pre-fight coverage, the post-fight coverage, some news that happened, and we all talk about it. But 8 of us talking about our each individual stories might go long. So I want to have a discussion about something that is the peak of my I'm not surprised Mr. Falcons moment, because an event outside of normal MMA promotions happened this weekend. It took place in Thailand. It took place different than most of the rest of them. And it was by a promotion called Full Metal Dojo, which is a promotion in Thailand that they do some unique things. Like instead of championship belts, the champions get katanas. So it's a very interesting type of situation. Well, Full Metal Dojo partnered up with pornography cam girl website Cam Soda this weekend to host an MMA card of all MMA cards. Now, I probably shouldn't say MMA because in addition to a couple open weight Pride rules MMA matches, 12-6 elbows legal, soccer kicks, go right ahead, have fun. In a ring, there was Lethway, which is Muay Thai with bare knuckle and headbutts. There was what else was there?
There was kick fight. Don't forget
there was a match that the fighters were only allowed to kick and knee each other, and it was 90-second rounds, and it was spectacular, by the way.
It was the best one.
There was a man versus woman grappling match. Spoiler alert, the woman ran roughshod after the guy got tired. So that was a blast to watch. There was something called Trinity Rules, which is the first round was boxing, the second round was Muay Thai, the third round was MMA. And
the one guy versus two novices. And
the biggest one of all was a 185-pound one-on-one guy fought against 220-pound just nobodies, apparently. One of them was an amateur fighter. Another one was, as they kept saying, a b-boy dancer, which I don't know what that is. But he was not. He was very talented. He was good on the ground, and it was a blast to watch. So the two guys win. The first guy kind of shoots in and holds him, and the other guy punches him from a distance and wraps up a rear naked choke, and they get it. Oh, that was fun. And the promoter in there, who was the star of the attraction, the ultimate Carnival Barker, got in there and says, encore. So he separated them and started the fight again. And they fought a second time. And it was just as glorious. And I want to open the panel to anybody that watched this spectacular show and tell me how did you feel? Matt Hunter, you enjoyed it with us. Matt Wells as well. Come on, give me what do you got?
I had watched on that day at least 12 plus hours of boxing and UFC. Right, I had like 3 boxing cards to watch: Matchroom, PBC, right, Top Rank. We had UFC, right. So I was kind of spent, right. And then I got the link in the DM from Jay over here. And I'm like, what the fuck is this, right? So I looked it up and I saw the poster and I looked at what the poster was telling me was on this event. I had to watch it. It was glorious. This was, look, I hate this type of stuff. Like I hate bare knuckle boxing. I hate sideshow, circus show bullshit. But this was like the perfect personification of all of the extremes of combat sports. Like in every way, from the announcer, from the MC, like it was ridiculous. There was little people that like were the posse that marched out each fighter. There was
Superman, Spider-Man, Batman.
Jay, you kind of undersold it. It wasn't samurai swords that they gave out. They also gave out golden axes. They gave out bongs. I think there might have been live animals that were given out at some point. It was insane. Okay. And again, the announcer, the MC, John Nutt.
He's the guy who's the promoter.
We demand a Tiger King style documentary on that guy. We need it for the culture. Like we just need it for the community right now. It was unbelievable. I will say this: I'm not a fan of like Cam Soda because like it's a lot of pornography around the fighting. I'm like it's really distracting. So I'm not a big fan of the outlet that they did it in, but like the actual event, oh my god, it was fantastic.
So Matt, you're not a Cam Soda guy. You're more into Brazzers. Is that what you're trying to say?
I mean, like Pornhub, X videos, like they're just. I just go to those things. I don't go to Cam Soda. No, I'm watching 2 guys fight a German 1-on-1 pro. Okay, no, I don't want to see that right next to it. I'm good. You know, next time.
Maybe. Listen, man, this was the most apt name for an event ever in the history of events and event naming, because it had everything as Jay laid out, but there were so many little things as well. Like before the 2-on-1 fight, the whole stream crashed and everybody in the Cam Soda chat's going crazy, like, oh no, and then you go to Twitter, oh no, it's down. So then it like blips in and out for like 5 seconds. And then apparently they get word that the stream's down. So they're like, all right, we're going to wait. So you got 3 guys in the ring just standing around, you know, just doing whatever with all like, and MC's going crazy, like trying to freestyle it over there.
So much cocaine.
I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know how much drugs were consumed that night. But
all of them.
If you notice, he was slowly stripping off layers of clothes as the wrestling.
I'm sure he had a towel like that. He just kept right outside the ring, just constantly wiping himself down. But we had that, and then not to mention one of those fights, where it was like the open weight fight or whatever, where it was like the 145 guy versus the 230 something pound dude. The heavyweight dude got kicked twice in the face. It was like, nah, son, I'm done. He wasn't hurt whatsoever. He was just like, I'm not getting touched anymore. Like, that's it. I'm done.
The commentator, oh, it looked like his jaw was broken. Soundbite. Oh, damn.
It was a 135-pound Muay Thai coach versus like a 250-pound boxer that had the nickname of Watermelon in Thai.
Wasn't there a guy called Panda Bear?
Yeah, it was the main event. I think Auger is curious too about something.
Well, so I just need to point out here, if you're watching this video, go back to when Jay started to bring this up and just focus on Jason and watch that. That's how a disappointed dad looks for a good, I don't know, the entire time we've been talking about this. He just looks so unhappy. He just looked like Eddie. It's pretty incredible. That's all I have to say about it. All
right, so because this is definitely going to go completely off the rails if we follow down this train, but I'm going to push it just a little bit further and try to bring it back to legitimacy here. If you could make any sort of circus matchup with actual fighters, like in real organizations, UFC, Bellator, ONE, etc., what would you do? I nominate Valentina Shevchenko versus the entire women's flyweight division in one night. Dickstown style.
Yes.
I got one for you. Francis Ngannou versus Deiveson, Figueiredo, and Cody Garbrandt at the same time.
I was actually
going to probably win.
I was going to say the same thing, except instead of Garbrandt, Joseph Benavidez. I think, but otherwise the exact same thing. I was thinking that's
all three of them. Fuck it. Who cares?
Yeah.
I'm saying like Ngannou versus the three best wrestlers in the lower weight classes.
Right. I want like some Master Blaster shit. I want Ryan Bader with Alima Lay McFarlane on his shoulders versus Stipe Miocic with Valentina Shevchenko on his shoulders, and you either got to knock the chick off the seat or knock out the man.
So
who runs Bartertown
at the same time, right?
That's what we're gonna find out.
Kristen, what's your circus matchup?
Let's see. I might take it old school and just do like a rehashing of the WEC days and just have Dominic Cruz, like prime Dominic Cruz versus all of Team Alpha Male at the same time. I think that'd be fun to watch because they all had beef for no reason. It was so weird because they literally had beef because of Uriah Faber. And I think that beef was so weird too because Uriah Faber was like, I let you live when I let go of that first choke. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I guess that's such a weird way of thinking, I guess. And then from then on, Team Alpha Male just despised Dominic Cruz. It was weird.
So is Dillashaw representing Team Alpha Male for this?
Yeah, probably not. I think he's Team Peanut Butter with Dwayne Ludwig and whatever they got going on over there, right? Referee. Oh yeah, that'd be a good one.
Yeah. I want to see the biggest fighter that John Lineker can knock out.
Bob Sapp, where are you?
CM Punk.
That's fair.
All right,
being drug tested, we can do it.
Well, how about this? Here's another scenario. What will be your favorite MMA media matchup?
Luke Thomas, Ariel Helwani. That's like the common one.
That would be the.
Like a
funny.
That's the main event for sure. That's the main event. That's what's selling the marquee for sure.
There's one or two motherfuckers I wouldn't mind taking on, but that's another story.
Ooh, Brett Okamoto and Mark Ramundi, like the other two ESPN guys, duking it out for number 2.
Oh man,
I was thinking Marundi and Aaron Bronstetter. Probably the same weight class. Yeah.
Same weight class. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I don't know, like Matt. I think Matt Hunter. I'll put you up against Trent Rhinesmith, the two guys who piss everybody off.
I like Trent. I like Trent. No,
that'll be a great
match.
There
can only be one of you guys.
Oh no!
And if
I succumb to the clear balding that I'm experiencing right now, me versus Andreas Hale for the official bald light skinned guy.
There can be only one.
The only one.
I don't know. Andreas look like he's funny, man. I don't want this.
I don't know. I want to see Mike Fridley take some people on me because I'm pretty sure he could.
Mike Fridley is strapped all the time. Yeah. Like we don't want that.
Well, no, I mean we want to cage that. We don't want to.
Somebody's too slow to let go of the knee bar. He's just gonna, like, Yeah.
Can we get a legacy pick like Pat Wyman back?
No, Pat Wyman. Pat Wyman versus Luke Thomas might be the fairer matchup right there. They're both large gentlemen, very well trained.
That's like versus Costa.
Yeah, that's. I don't want to be the ref for that one.
So who fights Jordan Breen?
No. Robin Black.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Battle of the air. There you go. Go for it.
Mushrooms before the fight, though.
You know what?
Rock
And just to throw some chaos in the mix, let's see Michael Fidel versus Pat Auger.
Ooh, body lock.
Pat's like
these two young smart guys. Let's see what they got.
Pat gives like the 2005 Matt Hughes like.
Karate. I thought that was what he was going to say next. All right. But now, of course, once again, we got to rein it in. So now the UFC is on this ridiculous run of events starting last month, July. Now going into December, we will not have a single weekend off. There's going to be constant fight action, and that's just the UFC. How does that make you feel like about your life in general, if you have one?
Man, we prepped these questions ahead of time, and I did not imagine it being read that way. I got to be honest. I did not expect that to be a performance. How did that make you feel? And then the crowd just erupts in laughter. No, I think it's great, man. We're so you asked about this earlier about the idea of there being COVID-19, all this stuff going on. I am torn as you can possibly be on this sort of thing. Like, I could be going to these events in Vegas right now. I'm sure a lot of us could, but I don't really care to. I'm just like, nah, I'm cool. I'll just watch it from home. You know, like I don't really need to risk life and limb or someone else's life and limb to go. I'm totally cool to watch from home. And I think it's great. I think it's super dope. I'm down to watch it, but I don't know. I feel really strange about it. But as I'm here quarantining, I'm really stoked to have something to watch on Fridays and Saturday nights between Bellator, UFC, whatever else is going on. I think it's great, and I think it's a lot, but I'd rather have a lot than nothing else while I'm just like, oh, hey, I guess I can play PS4 for a bit. What's going on? I'm down.
All right. Any other thoughts on the nonstop schedule, Matt?
I mean, it's a lot. I mean, especially someone that watches both sports, like in terms of combat sports, boxing and MMA. Like September's stacked, October's stacked, and it looks like December's going to be a big month as well. So it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what pans out, what gets the attention. Plus, you know, mainstream sports are back in swing too. You know, Lakers are playing right now. I'm missing the game. So, you know, there's a lot to watch right now as a consumer when, you know, a month ago there was nothing. It was just combat sports. It was just UFC. It was just those, you know, shitty Top Rank cards on Tuesday and Thursday, right? That was all we had. Now we have a deluge of content that I don't think we can all watch live. So it's gonna be interesting to see how we, you know, prioritize content.
Yeah, it's a weird situation because the old, I mean, stats are fun. The old record for the most number of weekends in a row was 12. We're going to hit 23 at the end of this. And another stat of the week that I threw out there a month or two ago was that there were 34 weeks left in the year, and the UFC needed to put on 34 cards to be able to meet its contractual obligations. And here we are. And as somebody who covers UFC cards as far in, about as far in as I could possibly go, it's phrasing, of course. It is exhausting. It's challenging, and I'm glad I had today off. I didn't even remember that I had today off, so I'm glad that I at least had that moment to just go, okay, all right, only 14 more weeks to go until maybe I can have a weekend off. But it is better than nothing. I'm not going to deny that. But at the same time, these cards the UFC has gotten away with putting on because there's nothing else to watch at the time. There's no other kid on the block. They may have a rude awakening when those ratings start to fall, and we're, given a 3-round fight card with Anthony Smith and Alexander Rakic when they could have had Robbie Lawler headline instead, but that's not the point. It's a lot. It's constant. It almost feels better to just feel like, well, it's Saturday, so the UFC's on.
All right. So has this killed any potential plans that you might have made had we not have done this epic run of fight cards?
I mean, it's kind of hard to predict, right? With everything going on right now. I mean, I always kind of already like chalk up most Saturday evenings to watching fights for the most part, and it's no different now. The only thing that's really changed is, I feel like I'm a guy that watches every fight, right? I try to watch every fight from beginning to end, early prelims on to the main event. Now with some of these cards, it's like, do I really want to tune into these prelims? Because these are dudes they're literally scraping the bottom of the barrel for some of these guys. And it's just like, are you going to be here next time, even if you win? Like, I don't even know. You're right. It's like you get that feel with some of these guys. Like I tweeted out during this event, it's nice to have contender series fights mixed in on real cards now, because that's what it really is.
Yeah.
We have
not being a fan of MMA and then seeing Jessica I versus Calvillo as the main event, being just like, dude, I'm on board.
exactly.
You won it.
Got me hooked right here.
He's right there.
Yeah, it's just so much. I mean, it's good for us that love fighting, and we're gonna watch regardless, right? But it is kind of one of those things. It's like, hey, if something comes up, I might have to just dip out and be like, all right, I'm gonna make sure I just catch the main card.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll, maybe I'll touch on this a little bit later on in the show when we start talking about some of our personal things as far as like our love of fights and whatnot. But ever since I was, let go at Sherdog, like I can't justify to my wife that I'm taking every single Saturday and this is block of time where I can't be disturbed and the TV is all mine and, everybody leave me alone. I can't justify that anymore. So when I told her today, when I looked at the outline for the show, I was like, man, we're not going to have, it's going to be straight on until December. And she looked at me like, so, just real life is just not working with that. But at the same time, the UFC has like conditioned us to not care about every single thing. There was a point in time where every UFC card was appointment viewing and you had to watch. And it was always something compelling on there. But now I think it's pretty accepted that you watch it or you don't. And it's fine regardless because they got the guarantee check. So it's all good. And that's sort of the vibe I'm getting now. I mean, especially knowing the quality of some of these fights are being put on, we know this isn't the best that the promotion has to offer. It's just the best of what is available right now, and we're not exactly in a normal world. All right, so now going from the UFC to a promotion that has billions and billions more viewers than them, and that's one. However, they have been tape delaying their recent events while keeping the results secret. What the hell? What do you make of this?
I guess I'll jump on this grenade because One Championship and we're best friends. I totally have never gotten an email yelling about something I've said. So One Championship, you can't broadcast an event and then try and keep the results secret and then let them out at once. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that for a lot of reasons. Because for official record keepers, we have to know the results of the event as it happens. That's a pretty straightforward kind of thing. And then at the other extreme, and this is something that bothered me from a lot of different perspectives, is that so these events are tape delayed. They've happened. They happened. The fighters won. The fighters lost. They went home. Their Instagrams of them training for the next one. So, posting about stuff, trying to cryptically keep secret without sounding like they're disappointed having lost a fight. But you can kind of tell when someone's bummed out on Instagram and how they're reacting to the fight that totally is about to happen. And we haven't said anything. And then One Championship goes, oh, yeah, our bad. These are tape delayed events. You could bet on these fights that had already happened. The lines were open. I saw them myself. That in addition to betting lines being open, One Championship, there are billions of people that are watching, which means there are billions of possible people that could get the results for the event that already happened and find out who won these fights. Because, spoiler alert, there were spoilers on the internet of who won these fights. So you could bet on these fights that already happened and have the knowledge of who actually won the fight. So you're not actually betting anymore. You know the result. You can take a prop bet on so-and-so fighter by knockout because so-and-so fighter won by knockout. So it blows my mind that this was something that One Championship tried to just release at 1 a.m. on their Thailand Facebook page. Hey, just to let you guys know, these are tape delayed. We're still the same thing. We haven't told anybody what happened. But yeah, so here you go. Here's some fights that we totally needed the tape delay. And why do they have to tape delay? I'm going to ask a question to everybody. Why? Why would they tape delay these shows? They're on a broadcasting app. You can get them on your phone. Why? Why do they tape delay?
I mean, why does one do what it does?
Because they're
That's a
shady
better
business.
question.
Barter transactions. Didn't get the barter transactions lined up, so they didn't get the space that they needed from whoever they're doing services for. That's it's just WWE. I don't know why everybody. Makes sense to me. You can bet on who wins WrestleMania. That's the same type of thing, right? It's just
You tape delay it just like WWE, right? Like if you tape delay a WWE match and you don't like how it actually played out, all right, we're gonna run it back.
Isn't that about
There
the
you go.
clearest possible
Yeah.
conflict of interest that you could possibly get for an organization that already has a history of changing results they don't like?
Well, no, Jay, you got it all wrong. I mean, they
I
have
know.
they have a governing body that they've appointed to oversee these things, so it's okay. It's all above board.
And,
So I'm
and also,
right.
and Chatri is a man of honor and respect.
I mean, this is about integrity, Jay. How
Yeah.
dare you?
This isn't
their name.
Western martial arts. This isn't Western martial
And
arts.
you're right.
They're building heroes, Jay.
They're
they're
building
building
movie stars.
A universe of heroes. Come on.
For billions and billions of watchers around the world. Jay.
Potential.
Just watching and being inspired by these heroes, Jay, and you just shit upon them.
Didn't you see the COVID relief concert they put on with Lady Gaga?
I
and all
mean, man, they blew it out of the water.
What
They
LO
raised like $150 million by themselves.
Yeah.
They got Celine Dion and LL Cool J. Jay. Who did you get? Huh? Who did you get, Ben?
No, that
you got-
was Chatri. That was Chatri, not you. Man of honor.
All right. So before we get a cease and desist, let's go ahead and move on to the speed bag.
Oh, I already.
You don't need to worry about a cease and desist. Chatri's going to watch that whole segment and just be like, "Hey, we haven't had an event called Universe of Heroes yet." Like, write that shit down on his notepad.
The check is in the mail, Mr. Duffy.
All right, so here we go. Now, I'm giving each of you mofos 10 seconds to answer these questions. We're going to do it round robin, so pay attention and wait for your name to be called. Pat, I'm going to start with you. Roy Nelson lost his 5th fight in a row and wants to retire with a rubber match against Matt Mitrione. Is this the fight to make?
Yeah, why not?
All right. I was a little late pressing the bell, but I'll just keep talking. And then the bell's going to ring. And then it's going to be Hunter.
Can you just retire now? Can we just do that? I would appreciate that. Is that an answer that I can say? Cool.
That's a good answer. Jay.
Are you kidding? This is the trilogy match we've been waiting for. How many years have we been waiting for them to run it back again and settle everything? This is the double retirement fight.
Kristen.
No, literally, rubber matches should only be for good fights. I don't want to see a third fight between these guys. Like, it's not Little Nog versus Mauricio Rua, okay?
Jason.
I don't give a fuck.
Matt.
Yo, we're in the pandemic times and everything, and everybody's talking about being in bubbles and stuff. I'd rather see them both fight in a bubble, an actual bubble. That's what I'd rather see.
Ben.
If you're going to do a Bellator heavyweight trilogy, give me Prindle versus Santos 3 for all the marbles.
Yes.
All right. So, so Kristen, I'm going to start with you on this next one. Dana White is going to speak at the Republican National Convention. How is that going to play out?
How would I know? I didn't watch the first appearance, so.
Ooh, Pat. When the bell hits, Pat. Sorry, it was a little early. Now, Pat.
Yeah, he's gonna I don't know, man. This same as the last time? Yeah, sure.
Jason.
Stephen Baldwin, Dana White. What a great TV show to watch. Fuck yeah, I'm all on board.
Matt Wells.
Listen, it's going to be a train wreck, and he's going to be pissed off if you ask him about it outside of that moment.
Matt Hunter.
I am in favor of overthrowing capitalism.
Hey.
There are betting lines on the speech he's going to make, and some of them are worthwhile. The over-under on the number of times he says the word fight is 8.5. I'm going with the over.
Ben.
He's going to be bright red and yelling stupid shit really loudly. I won't even be able to tell him from the rest of them.
All right. So the last question. I will begin with Hunter on this one. So why is Oscar De La Hoya making a comeback to boxing at 47 years old? You have 10 seconds.
This is the only time Dana White has ever been right in his entire life because of cocaine, allegedly.
All right, and Jason.
3, 2, 1. Cocaine. I'm
Cocaine.
on board too. We're all on board. Yeah.
All right, Kristen.
No comment. I'm sorry. I can't give one.
All right, Pat.
He was at that one event they taped and figured out you could pre-tape stuff. That's why. That doesn't make a lot of sense. He's going to make money.
Unless they
All
taped
right.
him fighting 15 years ago, it's not going to be a pretty thing.
That's going to count as your answer, Ben. Matt Wells.
I mean, it's cocaine and maybe some dresses. Maybe he wants to do a little bit more.
If you want to hang out, you got to take her out. Okay.
I
thought you were talking about his fishnet stockings. I was like, was there something
You
hanging
can
out?
roll the dice there.
Oh, okay.
I was hoping somebody was going to quote the Royce the 5'9" song "Cocaine," but y'all don't know hip hop like
I
that.
got Clapton instead.
I can't sing like that, and you know me.
Yeah, I didn't want to sing.
Yeah.
Thought about it.
All right. Well, I guess now it's time for me to change the clock. Let me go ahead, press this button here. So I'm going to give myself 30 seconds to answer all of the questions. The clock will begin after reading the first question. So Rolling Nelson lost his 5th fight in a row and wants to retire with a rubber match versus Matt Mitrione. Is this the fight to make? Oh God, why? Why are we doing this? Just stop it. Just stop it. Dana White's going to speak at the Republican National Convention. It's going to be him yelling. He's going to say a lot of dumb shit, but he's probably still going to be the smartest person on that panel. And Oscar De La Hoya making a comeback to boxing at 47 years old. Of course, it's cocaine, but he's also got to afford them red bottoms, white bricks. It's a very expensive lifestyle that Oscar's leading. And hey, you got to do it, man. All right, so there it is. There's the bell. There are my 3 answers. So, okay, now we're going to go through this very, very quickly here.
You muted yourself, Ant.
I have now unmuted myself. I don't know how I did that because I wasn't even pressing the button. But anyway, I was very excited. All right, so Alexander Rakic and Anthony Smith are going to headline a card this Saturday. Is just quickly one fight off the card that's striking your interest. Open forum.
Robbie Lawler, Neil Magny, because it's Robbie Lawler and he's awesome.
Yeah, sounds like a good fight stylistically as well. And Neil Magny had a very surprise performance coming back from a long layoff. I can't say I'm not looking forward to that one. Who else got something to say on here?
I like Alex Caceres versus Giga Chikadze. Caceres is becoming a cool little story this year. I don't know if he'll be like a breakout fighter or a comeback fighter, but somebody who, even by his own admission, had been written off as kind of just another roster guy. If he beats Chikadze, he's not just another roster guy, and he's not a gatekeeper. So, good for him. I want to see it.
I like Maki Patolo versus Impa. I can't say his last name. Coconut Bombs versus the dude that looked amazing on Contender Series. I think that's pretty great. I always love to see Coconut Bombs. It's a great time.
You say coconut bombs. I got a different kind of bombs. I got the rematch Magomed Ankalaev Ewan Kutilaba. If it gets out of the first round, we were especially cruel to puppies in our first life. Like this is the makings of just all of the nonsense that we deserve at once in a non-Fight Island format. They're just going to do exactly what they did the last fight, and it's going to be equally disastrous. I hope Kutilaba decides not to pretend to be hurt or actually be hurt and then say he pretended to be hurt. I'm here for the nonsense. As Tyler Treese would be proud, I'm here for the chaos.
Yes.
Is he back in the fight? I thought somebody tested positive for COVID in that equation.
Like 2 weeks ago. I guess he's good now.
Oh, so they turned that around. I didn't even know that. JK.
I mean, for now, it's so many. I'll probably test positive and they'll cancel the fight. But otherwise, yeah.
I love ultimate fighting. No holds barred. I'm all about it. Sean Brady versus Christian Aguilera, I think, is going to be a fun one. More so for Sean Brady. That dude is a legit prospect. His fight versus Ishmael Nurdiev was legit. Really enjoyed that fight earlier this year coming out of Cage Fury. Fighting championships, too long a name for a promotion, but I'm all in for it. I think Sean Brady will put on a showcase performance here. I think it'll be fun, not necessarily for both of them, but I had to pick something different from you guys. You guys took all the good ones. So.
Well, let me be the continually cynical and negative because I'm going to be watching this card thinking about what we didn't get. This was supposed to be Zabit versus Yair Rodriguez. We were also supposed to get Ryan Hall versus Ricardo Lamas. Those are two fights that I desperately would love to see and will be missed as we're watching yet another card that probably is going to have some last-minute ravaging due to COVID and weight cut issues, et cetera, as is the case every weekend, including like we just had Saturday was like a 9-fight card because of the cancellations and whatnot, and then it was a few weeks back we had an 8-fight card. I have a feeling that's going to take place again, and when that does, we'll really, really miss those two fights even more so.
Don't forget, we were also supposed to get Jeff Neal, who almost died, and
yes,
yeah. So I'm glad that he's doing much better now, but that's really unfortunate that he was off. A lot of Fortis guys have been getting screwed lately, man.
Yeah,
from COVID and just injuries. It's been sad.
Texas
as of late.
Well, didn't they go 0-3 in Houston?
Yeah, but I mean, just like recently, like Alonzo Minifield was supposed to fight. You know, his fight fell through. Who else? Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank right now. But there was another fight besides Jeff's that got canceled because of Ryan Spann had a fight that fell through. Yeah. So it's been a mess, man. COVID's been screwing up a lot of things.
At least Spann got Johnny Walker. That'll be something.
Yeah, that is a good fight for him.
Yes.
All right. Well, since we are, this is our 50th show, and we wanted to do something a little different here. Surprisingly, we are time-wise exactly where I kind of wanted to be at this moment. So I'm amazed we were able to get through that. But we're going to talk about some more meta things, a little more personal, a little more overarching for the sport itself, outside of our normal coverage of what goes on most Saturday nights. So, I will start with you on this one, Pat, and we've had similar discussions about this very recently. Who is your greatest MMA fighter of all time? Why?
I mean, my greatest MMA fighter of all time is clearly Darren the Damage Elkins, because his ability to just eat shots and just keep walking forward. I think his strike differential is if not the worst, real close up there, and he can still talk in coherent sentences. So for me, that guy does it, you know.
I'm a big fan of his tattoo artist.
Yeah, no, his tattoo. Who gets that tattoo? Just the damage with barbed wire, and you know, just everything about him. Every fight you've watched with Darren Elkins is pretty exciting. I can't find one that's not exciting for at least somebody, even if it's not him. You know, it's a good fight. Lots of strikes. No, and then I mean, I don't know if we're talking more seriousness, I'd go GSP, but. You know, that's a cop out. It's really Darren. So that's
well, I mean, I know there's at least one other person here that says GSP. Like Hunter, that's you, right? Yeah, I figured. All right. So
yeah, I mean, GSP's run is next level. I mean, the only other run is probably John Jones. But I would argue, you know, like pound for pound, for talking about like who has better skill set as well, GSP has a better skill set than John Jones, in my opinion. He's a better striker, better grappler overall. than John Jones. I would say, even though the runs are probably comparable. That would be my argument. So GSP, number one.
From a technical standpoint, I think GSP is far superior to Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Striking wise too, especially striking wise, far superior striker. All right. Anyone else outside of GSP picks? Who else? Are we any votes for Anderson? Any votes for Fedor? Any votes for Anderson?
Yep. I'm with the Anderson Silva train right there. I mean, listen, he did PDs, okay? Listen, GSP ran away from the PED tests. So stick around, you pop. That's all I'm saying.
So Vanderlei Silva did a smart thing then.
Yeah, I'll shout out Demetrius Johnson in this talk. I mean, I feel like he's one of those well-rounded guys too as well. And I feel like he kind of got the short end of the stick as far as his career goes because he's super marketable. I'm sorry. I think Mighty Mouse could have gotten so much more attention had they done right by him. And it kind of sucks to see people say, oh, I miss Mighty Mouse now when you didn't fucking miss him when he left in the first place. So I'd have to put Demetrius Johnson up there.
Yeah, good pick. Any other names you want to throw out there?
I mean, I'm on the Jones train, but I don't
On
know.
the GSP.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's one I'm gonna throw out there that isn't on our outline here. So outside of our GOAT contenders and everything, who's your favorite fighter of all time? I'll be first on this one. Rashad Evans, my all-time favorite fighter, and I can definitely name some reasons I'm very impressed by being able to be the smallest guy in the tough house and yet beating everyone at heavyweight, to still be an undersized light heavyweight, win that title. The well-roundedness, I think as far as individual skill sets wasn't the best, but he was one of the best when it came to blending everything together and not having that switch of thinking boxing to wrestling. He just did it. Rashad Evans also too, the first and now looks like a pattern of black champions who have been downgraded by the overall MMA world because they're boring or they're arrogant or they're choose your adjective.
You mean?
Yeah. So Rashad Evans is my all-time favorite.
Nick Diaz is my all-time favorite fighter, without a doubt. Shut up, Matt. Why are you laughing? What? Fuck off, okay? I didn't say he's the best. My favorite, absolutely. I'm born and raised in LA, and let's be honest, it was like either that or like Tito Ortiz when I came up as like a fan of the sport, and like I was not a fan of Tito Ortiz ever, even back when he was in his prime. Fuck that, he was boring as shit. Nick Diaz was fun, even when he was losing fights, even when he was not doing anything in fights. He was always fun, and like I remember exactly where I was. I was at my buddy's house watching when he fought Takanori Gomi. Like that fight was insane. It was absolutely nuts, and obviously California conspired against him with the whole marijuana thing. So we gotta always bring that up. So Nick Diaz for life.
Man, I'm on the wagon of a pride hero in Mirko Cro Cop. He's the guy, and he was so interesting to me because he came over as a straight kickboxer. I don't care about this wrestling and grappling stuff. Okay, fine. I guess I'll train with some guy named Weirdum or something. I don't know, some weird tall Brazilian guy. He'll teach me how to do BJJ. That'll be fun. And he went in and did the damn thing. He did everything besides beat the best guys in the world, but he always put on a show. And he was one of those guys that he had a signature move that if you played with him in a video game, you would use that and it would do really well. And people couldn't figure it out. Like even at the end, fighters in his end rising career, even then guys were like, oh crap, I just tried kicking the head. How did I forget that Cro Cop kicks people in the head? I mean, some of the most iconic knockouts you've ever seen when he pretty much kicked the mask and head off of what are we calling him now? I mean, it used to be Dos Caras, but Del Rio, I think, is what his name is now.
Patron,
just so many yeah, that's right, El Patron, that's the one.
Inmate number 54362.
No kidding.
Yeah,
he is an unpleasant, unwelcome guy, and I mean, just the things he did, knocking out Vovchanchin and Alex E, which I'm still appreciating him for that, or could have scrambled out Emelianenko's Circus. I don't know. Pro Cop's the guy. What he did in the tournaments 10 years later, doing the open weight tournament in 2006, coming back in 2016 and winning another tournament by knocking everybody out. He got it for me.
See, for me, while you would think it might be Darren the Damage Elkins after I talked about how great he was, my favorite is actually another old school guy, and that is Mark Hunt. I love Mark Hunt as my favorite. Mark Hunt. Reason why being this dude, first of all, everything he's done on social media is just a treasure trove of greatness. If you haven't listened or watched his outside of the cage rants, they're amazing. He filed a lawsuit against the UFC, continued to compete, ended with a sub 500 record, at least so far. Who knows if he's going to go back and fight for another promotion. Ended with a sub 500 record, and I'm pretty sure got paid I'm pretty sure he got paid either the most or more than any of I know he got paid more than most champions. I know that, which is amazing because of the way that the Pride contract worked, where he got $800,000 per fight. Could you imagine losing to Justin Willis and getting $800,000? Could you imagine if you're another champion in another weight class and you see that, how upset you must be? It's everything about his career, his life, everything he does outside of MMA, just a true gem. Mark Hunt is amazing.
Not a bad pick at all. All right, who hasn't gone yet?
So I said I guess I misunderstood the first question, because I said Anderson Silva. Where you're talking about greatest, I would say John Jones. Favorite, Anderson Silva, because of how just awesome Anderson Silva would actually go into the octagon and just toy with people. And my favorite moment of watching a fight in a sports bar ever was the Chael Sonnen fight, where he was getting his ass kicked. And after me hyping up Anderson Silva amongst people who had never watched MMA before, I was getting ready to finally get up and walk away from the TV. And then all of a sudden I saw him grab that wrist and I was like, oh, yeah. And then we all know what happened right after that. So I was vindicated in those final moments. And Anderson Silva, man, he's my favorite for sure, man. He's just he's done a lot of funny things in and out of the octagon. So how can you not appreciate?
Good picture. I hope I didn't accidentally kick Jay out. I don't know if I pressed the wrong button. He's coming back there. There we go. All right, there you go, Jay. Sorry, I think I accidentally pressed the button to kick you out. I apologize.
All right, that's it. All your Twitter handles are just going in the description. Fuck this.
All right, now, so let's keep it moving now. Definitely one that's a little more personal. What has kept your interest the whole time of following the sport, and how long have you been following it in general?
I'll go first because I'm the oldest and probably been watching the longest. I was aware of it from the beginning. I'm not one of these dudes who's like, I watched UFC. No, I'm not. But, from the late 90s, because I was a wrestler in high school, considered wrestling in college, and was a fan of college and amateur wrestling. So once people like Mark Coleman and the Schultz brothers and like that started getting into MMA, I started paying attention to it. I wasn't ready for it at the time, and a lot of the late 90s stuff was not terribly watchable by today's standards, including, some of those very same wrestlers, like, Severn Shamrock is not a watchable fight. I got back into it in the early 2000s. I think UFC 44 was the first pay-per-view I bought with my own money. When I saw Frank Mir break Tim Sylvia's arm at UFC 48, that was the first time I was like, okay, I'm into this. I want to see more of that. Frank was my first favorite fighter, once I had some. And really, it's been ever since. Right around 2008, the sport blew up to the point that I stopped watching every single event in its entirety until they started paying me to. But, what keeps me in it now is the same thing that always has. Just, the possibility of seeing greatness, the possibility of seeing just, like, terribleness, either like just comical terribleness or just actual pathos of people's, dreams and aspirations being squashed, and just, the feeling that anything can and might happen in that cage, not ring, cage, at any given moment. It's something that I enjoy in other sports, but no other sport delivers in quite as pure a manner as mixed martial arts.
Yeah, I dig that purist point of view. That's kind of what got me into it, because as a karate guy, it was always an interesting thing to talk about in the dojo. Well, could a karate guy beat some other type of style guy? That was the discussion we had. And so UFC 6 rolled around. I was 9. So work with me here. I wasn't buying pay-per-views like some people, I suppose, that were around then. So seeing Tank Abbott this is actually the first specific fight that I recalled, even though I had seen others earlier that night. Seeing what Tank Abbott did to John Matua, just the whole experience, just I don't know what it was about the entire experience, start to finish, the celebration, the mocking. It was just, as a 9-year-old kid, going, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen, and making sure there's any way possible at my dojo or whatever that we're going to watch every one of these events that we can possibly watch. And it got me then, and that kind of the entirety of it, the spectacle, the sport aspect, I'm a old school karate guy. You know, I trained Japanese jiu-jitsu, so I know a whole bunch of different things, and I would get destroyed on the ground. And just the whole idea of it, and then the sport and the competition still, even though it gets trampled on all the time, even though Jose Aldo and Yoel Romero and so on and so forth get title shots despite not actually accomplishing anything, I still believe in the sport to an extent, and it just still keeps me going.
All right, who's next?
I'd like to piggyback off of that one. I feel like John Matua versus Tank Abbott is just so bad, just so terrible. I have to make fun of you a little bit there. But Gerard Gordeau versus Yuki Nakai, in fairness, is probably one of my favorites ever. That's a lie. That is a terrible fight. That's the one where he blinded him and the dude didn't do interviews for like 10 years because he. Anyhow, I don't know. For me, I watched a lot during the early 2000s. There was some dude who literally had a church that was also a coffee shop that fought in Pride. His name is John Rankin. And he had that set up around like 2001, 2002. And he used to watch fights there all the time. And I remember watching Chuck Liddell versus Tito Ortiz on pay-per-view at a friend's house and things like that. But I was very, very much on the outside of it. And I have no idea what it took me so long. I mean, that's probably from 01 all the way to 09. And God damn it, dude, it was Randy Couture versus Brock Lesnar that finally was just like, wait, that dude is about to fight that guy. You have to be shitting me. And I watched it on a torrent site legally, 100%, right after the event aired because it was trending on some website. And I was like, I kind of want to watch this thing. This is kind of a crazy thing. And I would say, although I wasn't watching it in the early days, as soon as it started, one of the first things I did was go back and watch the first event all the way up until present day because I was so interested in how this crazy thing became so organized, and I'm very interested in history in general. And from then on, for whatever reason, 2009 is the year that it clicked. And that whole concept of it's not just the best boxer, it's not the best bare knuckle boxer, it's not the best kickboxer, not the best whatever it is that original intention. So the same thing that Ben and Jay just talked about is the exact same thing that still has me hooked to this day. I feel like we're watching the best fighters on the planet. Maybe it's not all the time, but most of the time.
I started probably about early 2000s in terms of just watching content because I had a buddy and his dad always would watch him. So whenever I was at his house, I was watching fights. But about 2005, I got really into combat sports. You know, Mayweather was starting to really rise up, so I became kind of hooked on Mayweather. Like Mayweather first Arturo Gatti was 04, 05, right? I remember watching that at my house. You know, Tough was a big thing. Spike TV. You know, I was like 10 years old at the time, so I was definitely watching Spike TV, like past curfew, you know, so to speak, or past bedtime, so to speak. I was very young, so you know, watching UFC fights, watching just random stuff that was common. And then obviously, I think like Ben said, like 08, like the sport got massive. So like I jumped onto the sport right before it got really big, and then I did see it get big. The rise of GSP, the rise of like I would say sort of like the golden age of 205, where like everyone at that top 15 was just a star, and all of them were changing belts all the time. Like that was just a big deal. Anderson Silva's reign, like there was just a lot of big stuff that happened. The inclusion of like WEC in like 2010, like I remember that. Like my first ever UFC fight I ever went to was the first UFC on Fox card. So that was Cain Velasquez versus JDS1. And that was awesome. I remember watching Ben Henderson versus Clay Guida. And that shit was insane. And I was, again, at that time, 14, no, 12 or 13, something like that. And so just started getting into it, started, going to boxing gyms. I went to, Gracie Barra and stuff like that. And just fell in love with the sport. And all of your like purest reasons for like still liking the sport is like kind of true. But honestly, it's just fun. Like it's an adrenaline rush. Like if you watch entertainment in any aspect, it's to get dopamine and adrenaline, right? And this gives that in ways that other sports just don't do. If I watch golf, I'm not going to be like, oh, wow. Oh, look at that swing. And it's like, no, that just doesn't get it going for me. Same with like most mainstream sports in large degree, even like stick and ball sports that we think of NFL, NBA. Like if it's not teams or players I want to associate with or connect with, I'm not into it. But it's combat sports. It's fighting. It gets me going. So I like it.
Yeah. Like Jason, I started off in 2009 as well, and it was completely by accident. Growing up in a Puerto Rican household, the only two sports you were supposed to watch were baseball and boxing. And on Saturday night, there was no boxing. Instead, there was a girl fight, and it happened to be Chris Cyborg versus Gina Carano. And I decided to watch that with my dad, and I said, man, I really like this. And then at that time, Strikeforce wasn't coming on like every Saturday. It was coming on like every once in a while. So I told my parents that I liked this, and my uncle happened to be into it, so he just gave me all of his like UFC DVDs, and that's how I got interested. And then you remember when we used to walk around with, like the fucking portable DVD players? I carried that with me everywhere, and I was just watching the fights like that, and from then on I just kind of like abandoned boxing a little bit and just focused mainly on MMA. And ever since then, I just keep watching, because it is fun. It is an adrenaline rush. I totally agree with Matt. And I mean, you never know what can happen. I hate to say it, like it's super cliche when you say it's MMA, anything can happen, but that's literally so true. That's why, like with these kinds of cards that we got this last Saturday, I wasn't mad at it. I was actually very surprised. Like it was a really good card considering the circumstances. So I guess it just keeps me around because it's like, it's something new every week. You never know what's going to happen. So that's why I'm still here. Like, how old am I? 25. Okay. So it's been 10 years.
You were waiting for us to guess. I'm like, I know better than that.
don't get, no, for whatever, if you're going to guess, please make sure you say something above 16. Cause I get between like 16 and 19 all the time, but I am an adult. Okay. I'm a full grown adult. So please give me some respect there.
All right, Pat, what's your story?
For me, I actually had a friend who loved buying old VHS tapes of things, and also was one of the first people that I knew anyway who watched Kimbo Slice's Street Fight stuff. And so I ended up getting hooked in 2009 by the Tough 10 season when Kimbo Slice was on there. I was like, oh, I got to check this out because I'd seen him fight in the backyards, which was crazy. And then once I started watching that, I didn't watch all the time, but I started becoming more of a casual viewer. And then the more I watched it, I was like, oh, this is way better than boxing in my opinion. And yeah, I like it better than pro wrestling. I was also big at pro wrestling at the same time. So it was kind of like a, oh, it's not fake. So this is a nice thing. And so, I'm sorry, scripted. But yeah, so I ended up just going from there. But yeah, actually it was Kimbo that got me to start watching way back in 2009. And I loved Roy Nelson too. So, shout out to him.
All right, Matt, I think you're next up.
Yeah, man. Kind of like Pat there. Like it's for me. Like I watched boxing growing up, like real young. Obviously, heavyweight, golden era type stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Pro wrestling as well. Grew up on pro wrestling. And then one day I was at my uncle's house and I saw this dude who looked like he stepped right out of a WWF ring with blonde hair, black dude, jacked, juice to the gills, just dumping people on their heads. I was like, who is this guy? And of course, I'm talking about Kevin Randleman. And from that moment on, I was like, okay, I got to watch this stuff more. I wish I could remember which fight it was because, I just don't, but I just remember him. I remember seeing that and just being like, holy shit. And he, literally dumping people on their heads. So yeah, I started watching from there. And what's kept me drawn in is obviously, the high stakes of it, right? Like I grew up, playing baseball and all that kind of stuff like that. Like I don't watch baseball now until it's playoff time, usually, unless if like my Rangers are like just having an awesome season, then I'll watch and or listen. But the stakes are just not high enough during a regular season, long ass season, whether it be baseball. I don't watch regular season basketball as much. I'm a huge basketball fan, but regular season basketball, like what are the stakes right now in game 15? Like, what does that mean right now? Nothing. The stakes mean everything every time two people walk into that cage. So you have to really appreciate what they're putting on the line every single time. And even like, as I said earlier, like when we don't necessarily want to watch all these prelim fights these days because we don't know who they are. But if I'm tuned in and the fight starts, I'm not gonna walk away from it. I have to see how this plays out, right? So if I'm sitting there and the fight starts, I was like, all right, I'm hooked here for the next 15 or 25 at least, So the stakes make it interesting, and of course, like as everybody else said, the different styles, things like that, so many different ways to win a fight is intriguing. Like I was a guy that I didn't want to play football in high school because I didn't want to get hurt. I had uncles and my dad even, and my stepdad who had serious injuries from football. Like never touched a football field. A 3-sport athlete, never touched a football field. I get into my late 20s and I'm like, I'm going to an MMA gym. Let's do this shit. Let's go get punched in the face. Like, that's how much the shit drew me in, right? So that's just where I am at it.
As somebody that had multiple surgeries in high school playing football, you made the right choice. Trust me.
Yeah, for sure.
And funny too, because part of my story actually involves me not being allowed to play football because my mom thought I was going to get hurt. So, like I wanted to play football and wrestling and all that. I was on the wrestling team for like a week or 2 weeks or something like that until the one time I got a bad report card. Mom snatched me off the team. The football team kept trying to recruit me. She wasn't having it. Was not trying to sign that permission slip, and that was that. So when I got to be 18 and I started taking taekwondo and kung fu and kickboxing and stuff, and I come home with boxing gloves and headgear and like my eye a little swollen. Of course, that went over very well in the household. But for me, like I was around combat sports my whole life. My family is deep into boxing. Got a lot of boxers in my family and stuff. So I've been around it forever and watched. Pernell Whitaker was like my favorite growing up, and Roy Jones' heyday, and Lennox Lewis, like a lot of boxers that I really love watching, and still like to tape study on them now. But then it just started getting more depraved with me, and then I was like, I want something more violent. I want something that's more visceral. And when I started into martial arts, I started understanding other techniques more. So it got to the point where I'm no matter what I'm watching an action movie and I'm critiquing the fight scenes based on how realistic does this look. And you get to a point where you're so warped by MMA that you can't go back. Like I can't to this day. I'll watch like a Bruce Lee flick sometimes, but I can't watch old school kung fu movies the same anymore because this has polluted my brain. So now when I'm trying to watch basketball, as much as I like basketball, I'm like, I just don't care as much. Like, all right, so you threw the ball in the hole. That's what's up. But I don't know if you can take a punch, so I don't really care. It just turned into more and more. I just need this. And then especially when I moved out to California, like in order for me to watch my home teams, especially for football, like to watch Washington play, and they had one of the early games. Like I got to get up at like 9 a.m. and go to a bar and just get tanked by noon to watch the team lose anyway. Like, no, I'm just gonna chill, and Saturday nights I'm gonna watch fights, and then it just kind of grew from there, and because I'm still kind of messed up in the head, so here I am. Yeah, so that's that. All right, now we probably, because time is definitely becoming an issue now in my household. So we're gonna wrap things up with this question now. And now Hunter's away from the damn camera. He gonna get his ass back. We'll just ask him later. So if you were a fighter and you had to pick your walkout song, what would it be? Pat, what's your walkout song?
I thought a little bit about this one, and this Mr. Wells might be the only one who gets this off the bat. I think he's the only one that's watched pro wrestling like I have, as much as I have. Maybe not. Might be wrong. But I would go with Carlito's original theme song from WWE, where he walks around and says he'll spit in the face of people, not who are uncool, but don't want to be cool. And that's just the majority of the song over and over. I think it would really get some opponents' heads. I think it'd be something. If you haven't heard the song, go look it up. It's a great song. The Titantron's like a picture of this dude's face in an apple, and then he's just spitting apples in people's face. Really, I think it's good mind games.
All right, Matt Hunter, what is your walkout song?
Killer Whale by Andre Nickatina. Come on, man.
All right.
There's maybe like two of you, maybe tops, that know that song.
I'm not one of them.
This is two of us that knew my song too. Man. It's all right,
And you gotta check that song out. Trust me.
Okay, I'll check it out.
It's a Bay Area legend.
All right. Yeah. Send me a text with it. Remind me. I'll check that out. Never been big into Bay Area hip hop until lately. Starting to get into it now. Except Too Short. Everybody likes Too Short. Ben.
Maybe International Players Anthem by UGK featuring Outkast. Just make sure they give me the dirty version. Like, don't give me, any of the bleeped or edited ones, because everybody loves it. It's not fighting music, so it'll be a little unexpected. Got Texas in it. Like, give me that.
Yeah. And Dre 3000's verse is one of the greatest verses of all time. And
amazing.
That's like top 10 all-time verse, in my opinion. Mr. Wells, what's your walkout song?
Man, I would want them to do like a mashup of like 10 different songs, but the one that I was stuck on for the longest, like when I first started training, I was like, when I have my fight, I'm going to have The Roots, Don't Say Nothing. I just like how that beat is. Like, I could see you just like walking down the aisle to the ring in that. I love that beat.
And if you get big enough, like you could get them to like actually like play you out. Like you versus Conor McGregor, and like the actual Roots are just on a platform. Like, I like that.
Just Questlove on top of the stadium.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
All right, Jason, what is your walkout song?
I don't want to check my bank account because that's the only reason why I would ever be going out to fight. That's not really true. But what I would go with is ironically, the first time I was ever on this podcast, you guys actually asked me that question. It's still the same answer. Songs for the Dead by Queens of the Stone Age. I'm a drummer. That is Dave Grohl doing his best drumming on any album he's ever done. And if there's anything that's like a fight that's almost like random in the way that the drums hit, but they hit like fucking hard as shit. I'm not a super big metal guy, but I'm all about that kind of stuff. So that song would be theatrical. It'd be intense. It would be everything that you would want in a walkout. Yeah, 100%.
Very nice. Kristen, what's yours?
Mine would probably be either Spit It Out by Slipknot, because that song just always gets me hype, or Can't Be Touched by Roy Jones Jr. I'm sorry. That's one of my favorite songs, and I'm just like, it's so cliche just because I'd be a fucking fighter saying I can't be touched. Like, why not?
So Florida.
I know. Listen, I fight in Publix parking lots, okay? I had to pick this song.
Publix is where it's at, so that's fair.
That chicken tender sub, though. Come on.
All right, Jay, what's yours?
Man, I think I'd be greedy because I picture myself being in the UFC or whatever organization longer to have it so I can break it up, because I don't think I could pick one song and stick with it. I would go straight psychological warfare. I'd go like Michael Bolton's "How Am I Supposed to Live Without You." I'd go. Who Can It Be Now? Yeah, I would go just off the beaten path. What is that? What song is being played right now? Like, what is it? Who is it? Oh gosh, I can't remember who it was. Came out a heavyweight. Came out to "Do You Really Want to Hurt Me" by Culture Club. Like that kind of. I think it was. I want to say Christian Colombo, but it was just that kind of tune is the one I want. If it's 80s pop to mess with them, okay, and just go along. Maybe I'll go with "Y'all Must Have Forgot" because that's the other Roy Jones Jr. thing. Just break it up, get weird, and have fun with it, or face the pain by stealth.
Fact.
Y'all are like too optimistic and too ambitious. We are in the apex. You got 40 seconds. You want to mash up. You want to like switch off like different songs. You got 40 seconds.
No, I want one song to fight. I just want a different song for a different fight.
So Jay's talking about embarking on an entire career.
Yeah.
Well, all you need to do is move to Vegas and be willing to fight in 2 different weight classes.
No kidding. Either that or I'll go to California and do Gladiator Challenge fights. They'll give me fights till I die.
Yep.
Yeah, you'll fight the same guy like 12 weeks in a row.
Hey, they play me a song, I'll do it.
So I guess the one time that I fight when I challenge CM Punk and go ahead and make my UFC debut, it will be I'd be very tempted, as a big hip hop head, I'd be very tempted to go ahead and put that CNN song "Bang Bang" with Foxy Brown on. That's like one of the hardest tracks ever. Every time I hear it, I want to smack the shit out of somebody, and it's fantastic. But I it's just not that simple. Like I'm not gangster all the time. I'm kind of a goofball. So I'm a big Rocky fan too. "No Easy Way Out" by Robert Knepper is a good one. That's one of the best tracks off the Rocky soundtrack. But the number one song I walk out to, and you've probably heard me say this before, Jackie Wilson, "Higher and Higher." I'm going out there positive. I'm going out there feeling the love. I'm going out there singing. I'm smiling, and then I'm gonna throw these hands. So
and CM Punk's gonna tap you out, man. It's gonna be sad. One way to man.
Hey, so if CM Punk beat me, I'm gonna whoop your ass. How about that?
CM Punk beats you, then I'm beating your ass too, man.
Well, all right. Well, no better place to end it than threatening one another on air. So, thank you to everybody: Pat, Matt, Jason, Kristen, Jay, and Ben for joining me this week. Been a fun time. Thank you for everybody who loyally watches 50 weeks in a row. We will keep cranking out 50 more. So you'll see all these faces back, especially Jay and Ben. Of course, they're here every week. The other 5 people, you will see them in rotation as always. So you can check out their work in a variety of places: The Body Lock, MMA Prospects, My MMA News, MMA On Point, FanSided, Mixed Combat Radio, Sherdog. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of work. Y'all know what you got to do: like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell 10 more friends. Donis is really fed up with me doing this show now. He's going off. So with that being said, stay beautiful, stay positive, and always stay sexy. I'll see you when I see you. Peace.